We're going to turn next here this evening to an ABC News investigation. Two former NFL players speaking for the first time on camera about their time in the league, saying they experienced concussions and now suffer from depression, memory loss, and bouts of anger. Two players suing the league, claiming the NFL uses a formula that assumes black players start at a lower cognitive level than white players, making it harder for black former players to qualify for compensation. Tonight, how the league is now responding, and here's ABC's Ryan Smith.
Kevin Henry played 8 seasons in the NFL.
That's a good, clean hit.
Tonight, he is accusing the league of what he says is a double standard when it comes to race and the concussion settlement.
I'm banged up. I'm beat up. And the part that you don't see is up here. You don't see how my brain is beat up. They don't hit me less or harder because I'm black.
Kevin Henry and another former player, Najee Davenport, are suing the NFL, accusing them of avoiding paying head injury claims based on a formula that discriminates on the basis of race. The formula, they say, assumes black players start at a lower cognitive level than white players, making it harder for black former players to qualify for compensation. It's a controversial practice called race norming, in which test results are adjusted to account for supposed differences between demographic groups.
There's the assumption that people of different races, especially black people, that their bodies function differently.
And while the NFL insists the formula is optional, an ABC News investigation has found that some clinicians who evaluate former NFL players believe they are required to apply the formula.
Football doesn't give you an expiration date. It just happens. You just expire. I've had 10 concussions or more, and that's not even common practice.
After his time in the league, Kevin Henry says he began suffering from depression, memory loss, and bouts of anger. In 2017, he underwent a series of tests, a doctor determining that Henry was suffering from a cognitive decline consistent with mild dementia. So he submitted a claim to the landmark 2013 NFL Concussion Settlement Program. What was the result of the claim you filed?
I was denied.
The claims administrator stated that there were issues related to validity of the tests and asserted that the evaluation used inappropriate norms.
The effect of using this race norm for the NFL is that it drastically limits the amount of damages they're going to have to pay out.
How did you react when you learned that there was a different standard being used for black players to get benefits as compared to white players?
I felt so betrayed, and I still feel that way.
Emails exclusively obtained by ABC News appear to show several neuropsychologists who work with the NFL privately discussing the lawsuit. In this email, a clinician saying their required reliance on racial norms, bottom line, do discriminate against black players. In a statement to ABC News, the NFL calls the lawsuit entirely misguided. The league says that race norming, part of what they call demographic correction, is recommended but not required. And the concussion settlement program was agreed to by all parties with the assistance of expert neuropsychological clinicians, and it relies on widely accepted and long established testing and scoring methods. Now 52 years old,
Is it gone?
Yeah.
Kevin Henry says daily life is a constant struggle.
It takes everything in me to keep from crying, man. I just want to be, I just want to be looked at the same way as a white guy.
And so let's bring in Ryan Smith tonight. And Ryan, where does this lawsuit stand tonight for Kevin Henry and Najee Davenport? The case still being litigated?
Yes, David, the players tonight are waiting for a judge's ruling on the NFL's motion to dismiss the case. And David, as of now, the NFL has received around 3,000 claims for compensation and paid out about 1,200 of them to former players and their families, totaling about $800 million. But the NFL has repeatedly denied requests to release demographic data on those receiving settlements. David?
This is really eye-opening, Ryan. Thank you. In the meantime tonight, we're going to turn to the breaking headline from the NFL. The league now agreeing to changes to its $1 billion concussion settlement program, altering the way claims for compensation are now evaluated, eliminating the controversial practice of race norming, which critics claim made it harder for black players to qualify for payouts. ABC News reporting on this for some time now, and now major changes. Here's ABC's Janae Norman tonight on what this new deal means for former players and their families.
Tonight, the NFL and its former players have reached an agreement to change the way concussion claims are evaluated. The new terms meant to be filed under seal, but ABC News learning that in that 46-page document, the NFL and other parties state that no race norms or demographic estimates, whether black or white, shall be used in the settlement program going forward. In June, the NFL pledging to end the use of the controversial practice of race norming, a neuropsychological tool that when used in these cases assumes black players start at a lower cognitive level than white players, often making it harder, critics claim, for black former players and their families to qualify for compensation for head injuries sustained during their careers. Today's news coming after an ABC News investigation uncovered emails from several clinicians who evaluated players saying they felt pressured to apply race-based adjustments to former players' cognitive test scores that, quote, bottom line, do discriminate against black players. The prominent attorney who negotiated the landmark settlement in 2013 later apologizing to his own clients in an exclusive interview.
I was wrong. I'm really sorry that anybody, any client of mine in this program has been made to feel that way. That was a big mistake. It was a failure of the system.
Two black former players, Kevin Henry and Najee Davenport, filed suit against the NFL last year, accusing the league of avoiding paying head injury claims based on a formula that discriminates on the basis of race. That suit was eventually dismissed, but not before the judge ordered the NFL and attorneys for former players into mediation to address the concerns raised about race norming.
I'm banged up. I'm beat up. And the part that you don't see is up here. You don't see how my brain is beat up. They don't hit me less or harder because I'm black.
A spokesperson for the NFL stating this summer that while they are committed to eliminating race-based norms in the program and more broadly in the neuropsychological community, there is no merit to the claim of discrimination.
And David, the settlement agreement stating the league will automatically rescore all eligible tests of retired players for whom those race-based norms were applied. That could mean millions of dollars of additional payouts for former NFL players and their families.